Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kakio. Thank you for joining me this evening for meditation and sutra study. There'll be a slight change to this evening's practice. Normally it would consist of a 15-minute guided meditation to start. However, due to some technical difficulties, we'll have to bypass the meditation just for tonight. We'll go straight into our reading, followed by a Dharma talk. The title of today's Dharma talk will be Hearing the Sound of Buddha. Before we get into that, please make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. This evening's reading will come from The Center Within, by Reverend Gyome Mkabose. It's not necessary to have a copy of the book. However, if you'd like to follow along, it can be useful. The title of tonight's essay is The Soundless Sound, and it begins on page 71 of the text. The other day, a group of young Christians, along with their Sunday school teachers, visited the temple. As usual, I explained Buddhism to them. Later, they asked various questions. One of the questions was, what is the brown bowl on the altar? They were referring to a large bronze bell. That is a bell, I replied. What is it for? What does it symbolize? Well, it doesn't exactly symbolize anything in particular. But if you wish to consider it as symbolic, then it symbolizes life. I'll let you hear the sound of the bell. I struck the bell and everyone became so quiet. They listened until the very end of the sound. Then I remarked, this is the way we begin our Buddhist services. Everyone listens to the sound of the bell, getting rid of extraneous thoughts and making their minds open and receptive. Most important, we are able to listen to the soundless sound. One of the teachers was very taken by this idea of soundless sound. I could see it in her face. She was thinking about it and she finally asked, what is the soundless sound? I replied, the soundless sound is the sound you have to hear yourself. It cannot be explained. She said, is there such a thing as a soundless sound? I answered, to hear the soundless sound. That is the Buddhist teaching. She was thinking quite hard. Are we able to hear it? Yes, that's Buddhism. She persisted. But can't you explain it somehow? She was so intensely interested in that one phrase, soundless sound. However, all I could say to her was, the soundless sound is one thing I cannot explain to you. Yet, you do have the ability to hear the soundless sound. What is the soundless sound? The bell always sits silently on a cushion. Whenever anyone strikes the bell, it creates sound. Depending upon how it is hit, different sounds are produced. High, low, short, or long. There are myriad tones contained in that bell. From the bell's point of view, it responds according to how it is struck. There is one temple in Kyoto, Japan, which is famous for having a huge bell. On New Year's Eve, it is a Japanese custom for each temple to strike its bell 108 times to send out the old year and welcome in the new year. The city of Kyoto has many Buddhist temples. Consequently, many different kinds of bells are heard on New Year's Eve. However, the bell at this one temple is so huge that if one person strikes it, hardly any sound is heard. The clapper is a huge log suspended by 16 ropes. It takes 16 priests all swinging together to draw back the ropes so that the log can strike the bell. This creates a most tremendous sound. Every bell has the potential to produce hundreds of sounds and vibrations. This is also the way our life is. Each one of us is like a bell. We possess a capability of producing sounds according to how things of the world strike us. Some of us produce sharp ones, others produce flat tones. All these sounds and vibrations result from an interaction between ourselves and our environment. All bells and all people have the potential to produce sounds. Each bell has unexpressed tones in it. Each one of us also possesses this unexpressed music. Each individual has the potential to create his own music. We are ever ready to produce sound. This is the soundless sound. Each bell, each individual has this soundless sound. My teacher, Reverend Akegarasu, was very interested in bells. In his house, he had a collection of bells from all over the world. There were bells of every size and shape, and bells made of all kinds of material: copper, clay, silver, gold. Perhaps my teacher was interested in bells because of the soundless sound each has. As for the soundless sound itself, as I told the Sunday school teacher, it is something to be experienced, not explained. Each person can hear the soundless sound. This is religion. It does not matter if the religion is named Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, or Islam. Religion exists for anyone who is able to hear the profound sound, the soundless sound. The world of the soundless sound is such a beautiful, magnificent world. It is unique and yet universal. Find it, listen to it, live it. And now that Reverend Guillaume Kabose has told us in no uncertain terms that the soundless sound cannot be explained, I'm going to attempt to do so. So in Taoism, there's a saying: the Tao that can be talked about is not the Tao. I bring this up because Taoism blended with Indian Buddhism in China around 500 BC. This is where Zen comes from. And in Taoism, we try to be one with the Tao. Let's let go of our discriminatory, cursory thoughts and simply be in tune with the nature and the rhythms of the world. In Buddhism, we attempt to do something similar. I think Reverend Guillaume would agree that the Buddha that can be talked about is not the Buddha. And the reason for this goes back to the Yogacara school of Buddhism and the teachings of Vasubandhu. We can understand it using his teaching of the three natures. So Vasubandhu, in his wisdom, divided our existence into three parts. There was the conceptual part, the dependently originated part, and the true or absolute part. To understand how this works, we can use the human body as an example. So the conceptual part is me, Alex, sitting here giving you a Dharma talk. I look and appear and act as I'm my own separate thing. I'm not the cushion I'm sitting on, I'm not the houseplants in the meditation hall, I'm not you. I'm an individual by myself. And as you look at me and hear me talk, there are many ideas and concepts that come into your head. This is one nature. The second nature, the dependent nature, however, lies right under the surface. Scientists tell us that the human body consists of 27 trillion cells. Trillion, with a T. There are heart cells and eye cells and nerve cells. Some cells that help our lungs breathe air in and out of our bodies. Some cells in our blood that fight off bacteria or carry that oxygen to our cells, our skin cells, for example. So while I do have a conceptual existence of being one individual, one entity by myself, there's also a dependently originated existence that I inhabit, made up of those 27 trillion cells. In addition to that, that's not even thinking about the farmers who grape my food, the food I had for dinner tonight, the home that keeps me warm, the bed I sleep in. All of that is also part of me. They are part of the dependently originated Alex that exists. So I'm simultaneously one person, and I'm also all things at the same time. And then below that, there's a third nature, one we might call our Buddha nature, which is pure and undefiled. Something beyond words, something that cannot be explained, that can only be experienced. When Reverend Gilmay talks about the soundless sound, what he's discussing is the nature of the bell that goes beyond the sound we hear, beyond the conceptions. So we ring the bell, a sound rings out, and our mind comes up with all these stories. That's the conception. We like the sound of the bell, we don't like the sound of the bell. Then there's the dependently originated nature of the bell, the metal, the stick that's used to strike the bell, the air vibrating to create the sound. And then below that, there is the nature of the bell that is beyond words, beyond concepts. That's simply and that's what we're trying to get to. We want to experience and understand but how do we do that? How do we get to that point? Well, first, we have to understand the nature of our reality. Now, Vasubandhu, when he talks about the three natures, when he talks about karma and conceptions and how they relate to the Buddha body, he likes to use the visualization of an ocean. And all of our karma is the wind and the rain that creates the waves on the tops of the ocean. And we can't ignore those waves. We have to understand and appreciate them and learn how to ride them skillfully, whether that's on a boat or a surfboard. We can't ignore the waves, just like we can't ignore our own personal karma. We can't ignore the sound of the bell or the things that cause the bell to ring. But if we truly want to understand the bell, if we truly want to understand the ocean, we have to dive deep. We have to go beyond the waves into the thing itself. This is the practice of Buddhism. Calming our minds, training them so that we can experience life free of our conceptions. So that we can hear the sound of the bell without saying, sound of the bell. And this is hard to do because there's so many distractions in life. There are movies and jobs and TV and social media, so many waves on the water. And that's fine, it's normal and natural. And like I say, we can't ignore those waves. But if we truly want to experience and understand life, we have to go beneath the surface. We have to listen for the soundless sound. And this is difficult to do because this isn't something we're taught to do in life. If we're riled up in one area, we're taught to go and look for another area to calm us down. It's like trying to get the water in a pot to settle by continuing to stir it. And if we just stir it the right way, at the right angle, then maybe we'll stop spilling water out of the sides. Or like when I was a kid and my mom would say, don't spill any water on the floor while you're taking a bath. But I'm in there with my G.I. Joes and my toy trucks and I'm splashing and Water gets everywhere. It was only as I got older that I learned to wash myself, clean my body, and not spill water out of the tub. And I also learned the value of simply sitting quietly in the water, letting it settle, and having a good soak. Understanding how relaxing that can be. When we learn to experience the soundless sound, we learn to simply experience life, to let it be what it is. And there are many things in Buddhism that help us to do this. When we engage in seated meditation, we're told that we have to sit there without moving, that we can't scratch our nose or check our phone. That's not the teacher trying to be mean to us. That's them trying to calm our minds, the waves on our ocean, so that we can find that inner stillness, so that we can dive deep into ourselves. To see the Buddha and hear the Buddha that can't be spoken of. I sometimes experience this in nature. I like to go on hikes, and it's very interesting because you'll see people who are talking on their cell phones or carry a stereo with them and listen to music, trying to entertain themselves, make the experience better. But if we go out into nature quietly, simply sit, there's a music that comes forth that doesn't come from us. The sound of the birds, the sound of the chipmunks, the sound of the babbling brook. But we can't hear that unless we're willing to let go of our own conceptions. If we're willing to be quiet for just a moment. What would our lives be like if we didn't cover ourselves up with so many conceptions of what we're supposed to look like and how we're supposed to live and what we're supposed to do? If we simply lived our lives fully, like the bell. The bell has no conceptions. You strike it, it sounds. Maybe it's a high sound, maybe it's a low sound, maybe it's pleasant, maybe it's unpleasant. The bell doesn't care. The bell just rings out with all the power it has. And we can do the same. And when we do this, there's a real peace and calm that comes over our lives. I've experienced this earlier today, actually. So there are 3 cats that live in the home with us, and I love them all to death. They all have their own little personalities, but there are some unpleasant things that come with having cats, especially that many. Namely, there's lots of litter boxes that need to be cleaned. And if you've ever cleaned a litter box, you know it's not pleasant. It's cat poop and cat pee, and sometimes it has a very strong odor. So we go to clean the litter box or to wash the dishes or to cut the grass, and all of these thoughts come into our heads. All of these conceptions about how life should be and what we want things to do. But if we let go of all of that, what happens? The litter box is just the litter box, the cat poop is just the cat poop, and we clean it up without any sort of suffering or discomfort. Because that's just what's here for us right now. That's the sound that we need to bring out when life strikes us like a bell. When we're willing to be quiet, we can hear the sound of Buddha, our own Buddha nature, and the Buddha nature of the rest of the world in everything we do. Whether it's the litter box, whether it's dinner, whether it's a Dharma talk. But it's not something that can be explained. It's something that needs to be experienced. But there are things we can do to prepare us for that experience. Meditation, like I talked about earlier, is helpful. Chanting is also good. When we place our hands in Gasho, look upon an image of the Buddha and chant Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. We are letting go of those conceptions, those discursive thoughts, going deeper and deeper from this first stage of reality, which is nothing but concepts, to the second stage, which is dependently originated. And if we keep going and keep going, eventually we experience the Buddha for ourselves. And after we have that experience, we realize that we've always had that experience. We just had to perk up our ears and listen. Amitabha. So, that's the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. I'll end with just a few announcements. So this is Meditation and Sutra Study. It happens every Wednesday, 7 p.m. on this channel, Eastern Standard Time. It consists very simply of a 15-minute guided meditation, which we'll start back to next week, a reading from a sutra followed by a Dharma talk. Every Sunday, we do Dharma Sunday, where I take some topic from the news or pop culture and speak on it from a Buddhist perspective, tying canonical Buddhist teachings with daily life. So I hope to see you there. Until next time, Amitabha.